In our previous videos, we've been looking at how we lead individuals, how we lead teams, and how we help our employees with change. So what if the change you want is more creativity or innovation? So how do you encourage, how do you lead your team or your individuals to be more creative, more innovative? When we talk about creativity, we're talking about the ability to produce novel and useful ideas. And from a business perspective, we want those novel and useful ideas to be turned into a useful product, a service, a method of our operations, how we do something or what we make, what kind of service we provide. So we want our workforce to be innovative. How do you foster that creativity and innovation for your employees? How can you encourage them to be more creative? Well, we need to recognize that when it comes to creativity, there is a creative process. We prepare, we incubate, we illuminate, and we verify. So let's work through those. All right, so we want to have our employees be more innovative. So they're going to need a source of inspiration, something to get their creative juices flowing. That means they're going to need some knowledge, information. They're going to need some material. So you're going to need to have kind of everything set in place for the creative juices to flow. So if we talk about creative solutions to problems, that means that we need people to be aware of what's happening. We need to know context. So perhaps we are hearing issues from customers. So the source of inspiration then is that we have upset customers and we've been collecting this information about different customers' wants and desires. So that's the preparation. Now, to come up with a creative idea, you need space in your mind to do so. So people who are highly stressed, jobs that are very busy, don't tend to be very creative. Ideas need time to marinate. We need time for your conscious mind to wander. So when do your best ideas come? Usually probably when you're in the shower. Why? Because your mind is focused on something completely different, or your mind is at rest. So the rest of the day you're focused on, I gotta get this done and this done, I gotta make dinner, I gotta pick up the kids. You're very busy. Your mind doesn't have that ability to just kind of work on your ideas in the background. So if you have less of a packed day for your workers, if you have more time for them to socialize, to interact, if everyone's not jam-packed and highly stressed, you're going to have a more creative environment. And we recognize that the mind actually works on solving problems in the background while you do other things. So the idea is that if your mind is focused on something else, in the background it's actually coming up with solutions to other problems. So we need this incubation. That's going to lead to that aha moment, right? You come up with this great idea. And then from there, then we can start to flesh out the idea. What's the implementation plan? How would this work? Is it viable? Then we have our verification process. So if we want to foster creativity among our employees, we need to remove the roadblocks that stifle innovation. So what are those roadblocks? Well, if your workers are afraid to make mistakes, like they just can't afford to be wrong because they're shamed within the organization, their pay is docked if they screw up, that kind of environment is not conducive to creativity. If you want your workers to be innovative or creative, there has to be a freedom to take risks, to experiment, to try new things. So there has to be both time to innovate, and there also has to be that room to make mistakes and try things. If we look at an organization like Meta, so formerly Facebook, reorganized itself to be Meta so that it could focus on innovation. And so what it did then is it hired lots of staff, so hired people with various expertise, required skills, with the idea to explore new innovations. So the idea was there was going to be more virtual reality, there would be an online marketplace where your avatar could buy clothes, exploring all new ways to do things in the virtual world, and expanding Facebook, maybe creating a portion of Facebook that's more like TikTok, and expanding the opportunities. So bringing in a lot of expertise and staff, and then providing resources for the project. So here's some money and here's some time to come up with ideas. And then you have to allow for people to try things out. Now, the challenge that Meta is having right now and laying off a lot of their workforce is that it can be difficult for organizations to both create time for workers to innovate, put resources towards it, hire people with expertise to explore, because that work doesn't make money, not initially, right? So if we need basically a risk-free space for people to try out new ideas, a lot of them are going to fail. A lot of projects are going to go nowhere and never turn into anything we can sell. And that's tough for an organization. That's kind of where Meta is right now in terms of having to collapse and restructure their organization, is they just don't have the money to put towards that anymore. The problem, of course, is that's going to stifle innovation. Where we see the most creativity in an organization tends to be from monopolies and oligopolies. These companies don't have a lot of competition. So oligopoly meaning a small number of competitors, monopoly meaning no competitors. In these environments, when you have no or little competition, you have a very large profit margin, which gives more resources, more money to put towards innovative projects, which means you can hire people solely to come up with new innovative ideas. You can allocate time from your workforce to innovate, so we don't need every hour people work to bring in more money, because we have a bigger profit margin on the few goods or services we sell. And you can have an environment where people's jobs are not tied to how sellable their product they create, and so it allows them for that risk-taking. So the challenge, of course, is that if your organization doesn't have big profit margins, has a lot of competition, you have to be more efficient, you can't afford the time, you can't afford to hire people to just experiment, it all needs to be tied to output. So the challenge, of course, with innovation is for a company to be able to find the resources, the time, and create that safety net for the workers to experiment. The last piece here is a shared vision. So if we're going to innovate and be creative, then we are going to need to understand what it is the organization is about, who it is trying to be, what it is trying to be. That's the vision. So that when we come up with ideas, they are tied to that. In the next couple of videos, we're going to talk about the vision and strategies of an organization. So if we're going to foster innovation, we need an organizational structure that allows for it. A more organic structure is going to allow for innovation, so less formalization, less hierarchy, less centralization. As we said before, minimal time pressures. The more people have in terms of free time, the more creative they will be. The more abundant the resources to experiment and try things out. You also need, as we talked about before, that high job security so people can take risks. We need to hire more creative people and have commitment in terms of our training and our development for making a more creative and innovative culture. So we're helping people in terms of developing a culture that is able to deal with change and encourages experimentation. There needs to be that tolerance for risk. There needs to be a recognition that there may be conflict as ideas get fleshed out. And there needs to be an acceptance of the impractical, right? If we're going to create new visions and radical change, then the ideas we have might be crazy. And we need a little bit of time to flesh them out to see if they are more realistic. So we want to foster a culture, have a structure that encourages innovation. So when we talked before about implementing strategy. We talked about 3 components: organizational culture, organizational structure, and human resource management. Those 3 pieces come here too in terms of fostering innovation. The organizational culture, the organizational structure, and human resource management need to support innovation and strategies that encourage innovation. Innovation requires a team approach, right? So we've learned, as we've talked about groups and working in groups, teamwork, that teams tend to be more innovative, more creative. More diverse team means we feed off of different perspectives, different ideas. And so innovation requires a team. We're going to need a champion, someone to initiate and advocate for the idea, for the creative solution. You're going to need people who rally behind the idea. So you're going to need constructive coworkers. When we come up with creative ideas, they get enriched by conversations we have with people around us. They say, what about this? What about that? And you take and you leave some of those different ideas. So we're going to need an idea champion. We're going to need constructive coworkers. And then we're going to need management who acts as a coach to encourage the innovative behavior, who provides the resources in terms of budget and allocating time to turn these ideas into reality, to take that creativity and turn it into innovation. When we look at innovation within organizations today, we often use what is called design thinking. So in fact, if you take our diploma or you take our Bachelor of Business Administration, you're going to take a course called Creative Think Tank, CREA 1001. So we have this required course in our business programming that teaches us about design thinking. And that's because creativity and innovation is very important for management. Now, design thinking uses a process that's used to design products, and it uses it for all kinds of situations. So, for example, let's suppose that you are designing a chair. Okay, you're designing this chair. And then the first part of the process of design thinking is to empathize. We need a deep understanding of the challenge. So what does it mean to be a good chair? What does it feel like to sit in different types of chairs? What is it people are looking for in a chair? So we empathize with the user of the product. That's originally how design thinking works. And then we define the problem. So we clearly articulate the problem you want to solve, which is we want a chair that's more supportive, that we can sit in for 10 hours at a time, whatever the issue is, based on that empathy with the user. We then ideate. We brainstorm potential solutions. What does this chair look like? And then we create a prototype. We design a test version, create a mock-up of the chair, and we test it out. Does it resolve the issues we have? Can we sit in it for 10 hours? Is it supportive? Does it meet those needs of the user? So design thinking: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. Well, design thinking is no longer used just design products, but we can use it in decisions we make throughout the organization. So we can apply it to any business decision. We want to grow our company. We want to resolve a quality issue. So our customers are constantly complaining. So empathize with the customer. What is the customer's concern? Define the problem. Come up with possible solutions. See if you can create something that resolves that solution. Test it out. Get feedback. So you can use the design thinking process for all the decisions, coming up with new things, new processes for the organization, not just product design. And so because of that, we have an entire course in design thinking, and to get you to be more creative as a employee and as a manager. This semester, we are continuing our work in terms of taking all these theories we've discussed and doing some management consulting. So you are a management consultant hired to evaluate and make some recommendations for Amazon. Here's an article from Fast Company that talks about how Amazon is the world's most innovative company. So take a look at Amazon. Why are they seen as innovative? What are they doing to innovate as an organization? And then tying back to some of the previous videos we have, what kind of corporate culture do they have? We talked about 4 different types of corporate culture. One was tied to creativity. Do they have a creative corporate culture that supports this type of innovation?